Today we're looking at one player to watch out for from each Premier League team this season. Now this could be a new signing, it could be someone that's just got back from fitness, basically someone that I think is going to be potentially pivotal to the team this year. I'd like to hear your different opinions on this in the comments section down below, but we're going to rattle through each team, one player for each. Let's go! Marcus Tavernier for Bournemouth. They've signed him for roughly £10 million from Middlesbrough, and he is now going to be playing in the Premier League. He's played sometimes on the right side of midfield, but more prominently on the left-hand side, and Bournemouth are really going to be hoping that that 10 mil spent on him is going to be good value, because they're going to need goals. They've just handed Dominic Solanke another new deal as well, and so hopefully good old Marcus can link up with him to create some good goal-scoring opportunities and maybe chip in with a few himself. Gabriel Jesus for Arsenal. It's a really obvious one, but it is what they need. Lacazette, whilst I'm a bit of a fan of him, to be fair, he just didn't seem to be good as a focal point for Arsenal. He was trying to hold up play even though he wasn't that strong or whatever. It wasn't really working. Aubameyang had problems and issues at Arsenal and with Arteta and all of that throughout the later parts of his Arsenal career before moving to Barca. And so Gabriel Jesus has sort of been a secondary role player for Man City since he's been there, really. Always second fiddle to Aguero. I mean, that's fair enough. Aguero was unbelievably good. But then he was more pushed out onto the right wing and they played without a striker instead of playing him up front. And so now that he is at Arsenal, he's going to be that main man, the main focal point in the team, and throughout pre-season, he's shown that he's ready to play that role, and I really think that he is going to be the one that's pushing Arsenal up the table this season. I'm going Buendia for Villa, and the reason why is because I am such a fan of him, and his signing from Norwich last year looked like it was going to be a really good one, alongside Leon Bailey from Leverkusen in the Bundesliga. Both of these guys look like they are fit and ready to go this season, and I really, really want this to be the case because Coutinho, Bailey, I'm not entirely sure, and Buendia, in behind either Danny Ings or Ollie Watkins, sounds like a really, really good front four. And so I want to see this magician work. His dribbling and his vision, fantastic. And I really, really would like to see him get a lot more game time this season. Hopefully no injuries or things like that. I'm going Lewis Potter for Brentford. And one thing that they weren't doing an absolute ton of last year was scoring goals. Ivan Toney had a decent season, however, he needs a bit more support. They did have Christian Eriksen at that number 10 role, and he was fantastic for them, but they weren't able to re-sign him, and so now they've gone and got themselves a pretty prominent left winger. Scored over 10 goals in the Championship last season, and hopefully for them, this season he's really going to get that link-up play with Toney and co, and really get the goals flowing for Brentford, because that is what they are desperately going to need if they want to stay up this year. And considering they paid 17 mil for him, they better hope that he delivers. For Brighton, I'm going with Undav. They signed him in January, but he spent the rest of the season back at Union SG in the Jupiler League, which is the Belgian league. He absolutely smashed it. Over 30 goal involvements in 33 games. Fantastic stats. And Graham Potter has said that he thinks that with more time training with the team, that him and a couple of other players that they've recently signed are only going to get better. So the question is, can he transfer that talent from the Belgian league into the Premier League? It's obviously a step up, but I'm really excited to see how he does and competes with Danny Welbeck and Maupay up front. So look out for Undav. Chelsea, I'm choosing Havertz. I think this is a tricky one because Chelsea's signings, you've got Sterling, right? That's a bit of an obvious one. Koulibaly has come in so far as well. But I feel like this is the season where some of the players that maybe haven't had as much game time or as much prominence before can really try and get their name nailed in that starting 11. It looks like Werner's going to go back out on loan. Pulisic, Hudson-Odoi, Ziyech. There's questions about a load of those as to whether they're going to stay or not. And it looks like Havertz is potentially going to be transitioned into their number 9. Whether it's a false 9 or a true 9, we'll have to wait and see. But there's no doubting his talent. He obviously got the goal that won them the Champions League, so he already has a big moment for the club. So it's harsh for the fans to sort of get on his back right now. And I'm really looking forward to how he can now play, having had a year to adjust to this Premier League system. I want to see more from him. I want to see more goals. I want to see more assists. And I think we're going to get that. I'm going Eze for Palace. One of a few exciting players that Palace have going forward. Oh, Vieira. He's doing a decent job, isn't he? He's getting a youthful Palace side that is starting to play a bit more attractive football, more entertaining, a lot more attacking than we've seen under, for example, Roy Hodgson, where the primary aim was, let's survive by defending, and any goals we score on top of that, that's good. But Patrick wants to try and turn it into a more fluid system, and people like Elise, Zaha, Eze all coming together. Oh, sometimes it is beautiful. So hopefully we see a non-injured season from him this year. I'm really excited if that is the case. Anthony Gordon for Everton. I feel like, again, with Everton, this is maybe a little bit of a harder one because their transfer window so far has not been outrageous. They've obviously lost Richarlison. Dominic Calvert-Lewin is injured as well. So it feels like they're going to need goals from other areas this season. Now, throughout last year, at the very beginning of the season, Demarai Gray hit incredible form, and then he went back to more of the player that we saw at Leicester, where even if he had an okay game, he didn't really get the goal involvement. Whereas the sort of bright spark in that Everton team, I'd say it was Anthony Gordon. And so I'm sticking with him this season as making that step up from being, hey, this young player's pretty good, to, okay, he's playing every single game that we want, right? He needs to stop diving. That's the first thing. However, you can see the raw talent and ability that he has. And so hopefully, under Lampard, he can sort of hone that talent and try and improve and make it a bit more consistent going into this season. Andreas Pereira for Fulham. Tricky one again. Fulham is a hard one to predict because we've seen them come up from the Championship before. Last time they spent like 100 mil and then went straight back down. It did not go well. Mitrovic scored a record number of goals in the Championship. He could easily be the one to watch this year to basically see, does he score more than 5 Premier League goals? We know he's insane in the Championship, but he's struggled to take that step up at Newcastle and Fulham previously. So I'm going with one that they've managed to sign instead. Andreas Pereira from Man United hasn't worked out for him there. This is a new lease of life and could potentially propel him into actually starting week in, week out for a Premier League team and getting those goal involvements and proving himself that he is good enough for this league. Marc Roja for Leeds. Leeds, another tricky one. They've lost their 2 best players, arguably, in Calvin Phillips and Rafinha. Patrick Bamford is scoring again in pre-season, and if he has an injury-free season, then obviously he is one to watch, because he's probably going to score a lot of goals. However, this Phillips replacement is what is basically replacing the heartbeat of the team, and so I think that's why you may not get that many goal involvements, but to see the game revolve around this midfield position, I think is how you're going to see Leeds playing further forward, especially under Jesse March. They also signed Sinisterra, which could be a very interesting one. Currently recovering from a knock, I believe, so may not play the first couple of games of the season. But yeah, I'm really interested to see how this new look Leeds play this year. Daka for Leicester. Now this is a hard one because we haven't signed anybody. Last year I called it bang on. I said Kiernan Dewsbury Hall was the ones to watch, and he smashed it. Was probably our best player last season after managing to get in the team due to injuries early on. He got his place. He basically stayed in the team for the remainder of the season. He'll end up playing for England. I got it bang on. This year, it's tough. I think Daka had an okay first season for us, but with Vardy getting older, with us not making signings, especially forwards, we've lost Lookman, who we had on loan. There's one attacker gone, and it doesn't look like we're bringing anyone in right now. Daka's going to get more and more game time, and now that he's had a year to adjust to the Premier League, he looks like he's a little bit stronger than he was last season, which I think is one thing that he really needed. And he obviously has the pace, he has the finishing talent. We've seen it already in pre-season that he looks like he's on the ball. I'm really excited to see what Daka can do this year. I'm going Diaz for Liverpool. Now, I feel like most people are just going to say Nunez, right? He's the big money centre-forward signing. People have seen what he's done at Benfica, and they know what they can expect to see from him at Liverpool. However, I'm going to go with Luis Diaz. And the reason why is because previously you had Mane. Now Mane's gone. Nunez is through the middle. Salah's on the right. On the left, you're either having Jota or Diaz. Previously, you had Mane in the middle, and he was a bit more similar of a player to Diaz than Darwin is. And so now you're really going to have to come into your own. Can you provide the assists for this big striker that you've now got up front? Can you increase your goal tally? We all know his dribbling ability is sensational. Skillful, talented, has great vision, but can he turn it into end product this season? I think he can, and I'm really, he's one of the most exciting players to watch in the league. And so that's one of the reasons why I have chosen Luis Diaz. Haaland for Man City. Now, whilst I could have gone down the similar Diaz route to maybe someone like Mahrez or Grealish this season, I have to go with Haaland. And I feel like the reason why is because he is a generational talent. We have seen him coming through the ranks, getting a transfer to Dortmund, smashing it there, smashing it in the Champions League, and now getting this huge move to Man City where he can potentially be the guy. Aguero left. They didn't really struggle too much without a striker, but you could tell in some games that they were lacking that physical presence and that poacher right in the middle. Now, I personally think that Liverpool, and maybe even Real Madrid, would have been a better fit for Haaland than Man City. He is about drive, he's about power. And I feel like those teams suit it a lot more. Whereas Man City, there's probably going to be times where he's basically just stood waiting for the ball and it's just going sideways. So I'm really intrigued to see either whether Man City change their playstyle a bit to accommodate Haaland, or whether Haaland himself has to change his playstyle. And I feel like that is why he's more one to watch than Darwin is for Liverpool. Martial for Man U. I feel like throughout pre-season we've seen that him, Rashford and Sancho are really working together quite well. Now, unfortunately for him, he is injured for the first game of the season at least, but should be back after that. But it is really redemption time for Martial at United. He's had his loan over at Sevilla after just not quite hitting the heights that he was supposed to with his Ballon d'Or clause and everything since joining from Monaco for big money. People forget that he was very expensive. This season, though, could be the return. And if Ronaldo does end up leaving, even more so does Martial have a chance of being the main man up front for United, because it looks like they are not signing a striker, regardless of whether Ronaldo leaves or not. So Martial will be the guy. Callum Wilson. Now, I'm not going with one of the big signings that Newcastle are making, where they're spending all this money. Could go for like Botman or even Bruno, who had a very good end to the season. Callum Wilson is my shout for this one. And the reason why is because Newcastle are making improvements. However, Wilson is still their best striker. They spent a lot of money on Chris Wood, and you can't see why, based on his performances, really. Callum Wilson is a very, very good Premier League striker. His problem is his fitness and his injury record. If we see Wilson playing in this team for a full season, maybe only missing like 5 games or so through injury or whatever, he could get a lot of goals. We've also got to think that Newcastle are most likely going to spend big, whether or not it's in the next few weeks of this remaining window or January. They're probably going to get some kind of good right winger, because they've currently got Ryan Fraser there. You've got St. Max on the left, baller. Ryan Fraser, not so much. So Second half of the season, he's probably going to get even more chances to score goals. And I'm really, really intrigued to see how well Wilson can do if he stays injury-free. Jesse Lingard. Had to be right. The amount of articles and everything that came out when Lingard signed for Forest, everyone's saying, oh my God, he signed this project deal despite it only being 1 year and being for mega money. It's really intriguing. He could have gone back to West Ham where he played really well, seemed to get on with people, had a good relationship with the manager, but hasn't ended up going back and is now going to Forest instead. Forest is spending a lot of money, and there's worries that they may do a Fulham a couple of years ago. Spent 100 mil, went back down. I think they're currently at 89 mil at the point of recording, if I remember correctly. And Lingard was on a free, but he's on big, big wages, which for a promoted team is pretty crazy, the amount that they are paying him. And so he has to be the one to watch. The pressure on this man earning that amount when joining, not being part of the promoted crew, you're coming in here demanding this much money, you better perform. So whether he does well or not, he has to be the one to watch. Aribo for Southampton. Looks like a really solid signing, this one, for Southampton. You've got a bit of a driving midfielder here that can help with the attack. I mean, Southampton's striker situation hasn't been the best for years. They had Brozier last year. Basically got Che Adams, Shane Long, Adam Armstrong. It's okay. It's not quite what they'd like, I imagine. Hence why they wanted to get Brozier fully, but Chelsea didn't let them. And so having a midfielder that can help in sort of that attacking role and just push forward and not necessarily get an absolute ton of goals and assists, but maybe like a pre-assist and really make progressive passes forward should be good for them. Spurs, I'm going Kulusevski. Now, some would go Perisic, some would go Basuma, some would go Richarlison, but I'm going with big Dejan Kulusevski. And the reason why is because there's 5 subs this season. Spurs are going to have a rotating front four of Son, Kane, Richarlison, Kulusevski, and then you've even got people like Sessegnon that can potentially play left wing, Lucas Moura. There's still people in the wings that are waiting. Kulusevski came in and absolutely smashed it last season. What a signing he was. He seemed like he fit the Conte system perfectly. The link-up play between him, Son and Kane was fantastic. Some of the goals as well, really, really nice. Now, is he going to get pushed aside by Richarlison, or is he going to step up even more and show, this is my spot in the team? You better make sure that you earn it from me rather than take it. So, I really want to see more of him. He's a very exciting player. His technical ability is fantastic. So, I'm really looking forward to seeing more of him, and he is my one to watch for Spurs. Scamacca for West Ham. Had to be, right? They've also signed a centre-back. However, West Ham's problem for a while has been they haven't really had an out-and-out striker. Antonio has been their main man up front for a few years now, and at times, he's fantastic. At others, you can see why he used to be a right-back. And so, it's really tricky. The man is a very, very form-based player. And I know you can say that about most players. However, he seems to really struggle when he's not in form, and his confidence just seems absolutely shot. So bringing in a big money signing from the Serie A up front, again, it's a bit of a gamble, like some of these other ones that we've been talking about. However, I'm very much intrigued to see how he does. It's not a household name. It's not like they went and signed Vlahovic or someone like that, or Dybala on a free. A Sassuolo player is one that not many would have predicted. So very, very interesting to see how they line up. Does Antonio get pushed to the bench? Do they start with 2 up front? Let's see. Pedro Neto for Wolves. So the final one is going to be Neto. And one of the reasons why is because he's so exciting on the ball. He's had injury problems that have completely destroyed him over the last couple of seasons. And it sucked to see because before, when he was on one wing and you had Jimenez up front, some of the link-up play, maybe Adama on the right or whoever it may have been, Podence at times, really, really exciting football. And it's just intriguing to see how they're going to start the season. It seems like he may be going up front whilst Jimenez is injured. Now, whether he will actually flourish there or whether they will need to drop him back to the wing, we'll have to wait and see. But he's in a lot of people's fantasy teams because he's great value on there. But I really, really like him, and he is a very skillful player and can be a very good asset for Wolves this season if they want to aim a bit higher up the table and have a bit more consistency in front of goal this year, get more goals. This is the kind of guy who needs to step up. So Neto is my man. So let me know your thoughts on this. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comments. If you want to see short form versions of this content, make sure you go into the description, click the first link and go over to my TikTok. But for now, if you enjoyed it, thumb up, subscribe. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.